Hey, my feel good friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social Podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and I am so dang glad that you are tuning in this week. Thank you so much for tuning in to my little podcast, my friend. I absolutely love showing up for you. And I love having you on the other side of those earbuds. So today I'm super excited. I have a special treat for you. I am actually resharing an interview that I did on my friend Erin's podcast, Product Powerhouse. Okay. Erin is like a super awesome woman who has a very similar podcast to mine, except that she specializes in Shopify websites, right? And actually, Erin and I decided to swap interviews on each other's podcasts a while ago. And Erin's interview on my show is one of those popular episodes that I hear so many compliments about all the time, right? And I actually get quite a few people telling me, oh my gosh, I just listened to your interview on Erin's show, Product Powerhouse, and I loved it. And they connect with me in that way. So I reached out to Erin to see if she would be cool with me resharing the interview that we did for her show where she is interviewing me. And she said it was totally cool. So I can't wait to share this with you. You'll get to hear me answering all the questions and talking about how we can make social media more approachable. And if you do enjoy this show, make sure that you go check out Erin's podcast, Product Powerhouse. Also, connect with her on Instagram. She's at Product Powerhouse on Instagram as well. And if you do like this episode, share it to your Instagram stories and make sure that you tag both of us. I'm at Feel Good Social and she is at Product Powerhouse, because if you tag it, we can reshare it and we can spread the love right back to you. All right. I hope you enjoy this interview that I am doing on Erin's show, Product Powerhouse. Hey friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social Podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and I'm here to help you market your business in a genuine way that works without wasting your precious time. On this show, we chat about social media strategy and mindset tips with a focus on, you guessed it, feeling good. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some genuine conversation for the good of your biz.
Welcome, Kinsey, to the podcast. I'm so excited to chat with you today. How are you?
Yay. Thank you so much for having me, Erin. I'm so excited to be here. I'm doing great. You know, I always get like pumped up by just having awesome conversations with people. And even just like the little bit we chatted before we started recording, I was like, oh my gosh, my energy is high. So I apologize if I start to get super excited in this conversation, but that's where it's going.
Totally the same. I was like working late last night. And so I am so tired today, but I'm like, I'm just going to have so much energy from talking to Kinsey. It's going to be like, it doesn't even matter.
Oh, yay. I love that so much. I know it's so, I kind of was realizing that on my walk this morning. I was like, it's so funny. I don't know if we've talked about this before or not, but I can't decide if I'm an introvert or extrovert. I think I'm like one of those like middle of the road people a little bit, because sometimes like going in like big social situations is super draining for me, but like having one-on-one conversations like this brings me so much energy and I love it so much. I don't know why I brought that up.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think I'm kind of the same, although I think I lean a little more towards extroverted, but I noticed as I've gotten older and started working for myself, I really crave that like one-on-one time, like alone time, which I never thought I would do. But also I have 2 kids. So sometimes you just got to get away from them.
Yeah. Understand that.
Before we just like talk everyone's ear off, let's introduce you. Like, what do you do? Tell us about you and your business.
Well, my name is Kinsey. I have Feel Good Social as the name of my brand and my podcast. And my kind of like elevator pitch thing is that I help down to earth entrepreneurs use social media in a way that is going to get them results without wasting their precious time or making them feel like they're losing their soul and sanity in the process. Because that was kind of my journey with social media a little bit myself. And that's like how I show up. That's who I want to work with and all of those things. And so I really focus on those like genuine tactics that makes your soul feel good, the things that are actually going to work for you and worth investing your time, money, energy in. And then also just showing up in a real way, being authentic, letting go of the fear of showing up and just using social media, making it work for you, not feeling like you're working for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so important. I always notice in myself, like when I'm overwhelmed, when I feel like I have too much on my plate, social media is the first thing that I let drop. Like, I'm like, nope, we're not even handling them. I mean, thankfully I have a team now who does it. People probably think like, oh, she's so on. It's not me. It's someone else.
Yep.
Because it can be really draining. And especially for entrepreneurs who are like wearing all the hats. Mm-hmm. The other thing is like, we think we're not doing enough because of what we see. So that's also draining. But I just love your approach. We have talked before, like I've listened to your podcast and I just love how you come at it at a different way, like storytelling and attracting people. And it's not just like sell. Like it's really like a holistic approach. So I'm excited to talk about that today.
Me too. I know. And it lights me up too. You know, that was kind of a part of my story where it's so funny you brought up wearing all the hats. I actually, in my first ever, like starting to promote my business, and I wrote this like cold email and I started sending out cold emails. And it's kind of funny, like looking back, I'm like, why did I start with cold emails? But like, also I was actually getting kind of great responses because and I blame it on this line. I used to say, I know what it's like to be wearing all of the hats in your business, and social media can feel like the big foam sombrero of those hats, right? And that's what it feels like. And so I think it's so funny. That's like such a part of my journey was like coming into this social media marketing space and hearing all these quote unquote experts online being like, okay, we need to show up on every platform every day with fresh content. We need to be answering DMs within 5 minutes. We need to be doing this and that and all these things. And I'm like, oh, that's not possible for the people like me where I am in my business and like also who I want to work with, you know what I mean? And also I'm the first one to admit, you know, I think that social media, it's important to figure out how can we create a sustainable plan of attack for you that like feels good to you, that you're excited to do, to show up for, that's creating that genuine connection and nurturing your audience, which we talked about on the interview you did on my show, that isn't going to take over your life. Because I'm the first one to admit social media is not like number one on the priority list on your to-do list if you're like still wearing all those hats in the business.
Yeah. So we talked briefly about how product-based businesses kind of approach social media. And I think that really ties into what you're saying, because product-based businesses, like they feel like social media needs to be different for them, which in some ways it is. Like there is a different strategy. There is differences in the way you're going to do things, but you and I talked about like people listening. If you didn't hear this at the beginning, Kinsey and I have swapped episodes. So if you head over to Feel Good Social Podcast, you can hear my interview with Kinsey. And so we're talking about similar topics, but just a little different, you know, but like nurturing your audience through your social media. And we talked about it in like different contexts on your podcast, but today we're going to talk about it in the method of social media. So can you talk a little bit about like your methods of social media? Like, I don't know the right word.
Yeah. Like how to create a strategy.
Yeah.
No. And I love that. Like in our interview on my show, it was like, oh, that's why I was like, I'm always like hand clapping people on this side of the screen. Yes, thank you for like sharing about website and like Shopify in like the similar value and perspective and like strategy that I apply to social media as well, right? So it's like focusing on nurturing your audience, focusing on genuine connection, focusing on, I think that storytelling is so, so important when it comes to like your strategy on social media, humanizing your brand, right? And understanding who your brand is, what your brand values, the motivations behind it, the deeper meaning behind it, and then sharing that in a way that connects with your ideal audience, because that's how you stand out. That's how you get people to pay attention to you. You stay top of mind for people. That's how you cultivate brand affinity, start conversations. And that's how you create shareable content and all of those things. And especially, you know, online, it is such a saturated place. I think I was telling you, I'm writing like a book about my brand vibe method or whatever. And it's just like, I think there's a line in the book that's like, I don't care who you are or what you do. Like there are tons of people out there doing exactly the same thing as you, right? Offering the same products and services, solving the same problems, all those things, like so much more than 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when the internet wasn't really kicking off, you know what I mean? And so we really do need to figure out how can you stand out online. And I think that it's through humanizing and storytelling, which I think that's hard for a lot of product-based businesses who are just starting out, right? Because when you're a service provider, it's easy to show up and be like, okay, I guess I'm the one providing the service. It's human to human contact, but the product is like a physical product. And a lot of people who I've worked with who do have product-based businesses don't feel like they can show up in that human way to drive that deeper connection.
Yes, 100%. I recently had a conversation with someone on Instagram DMs about her homepage and how she thought she needed to look like Target in order to have a professional level business. And I'm like, but you have a product that people can buy at the grocery store or the drugstore. You can get it in any beauty aisle. It's not the product that's special, so why should I take the time to order from your website, wait for the order when I could just drive to the store? That's the key. And that's all about you, because that's the only differentiator. And so pulling people into that story and having that conversation with them throughout your social media and on your website is that's how you build an audience of people who love everything you do.
Yes. Yeah. And there are so many studies behind people make purchasing decisions based on emotional connection, not quite logic. I tell this story about buying a sweater in freaking mid-July because it was on sale firstly, which is cool. And it was a really cute sweater, but I bought the sweater because it struck this story in my mind and reminded me of this sweater that I owned when I was a little kid. And my dad, and I have this picture of me and my dad going into the woods and cutting down a Christmas tree or whatever, wearing the sweater. And I was and so I remembered that story. I immediately created this story in my head about Brett and my boyfriend and I going into the woods and cutting down a Christmas tree in the winter, which is hilarious because we actually haven't had a Christmas tree for the past 2 years because we have been in and out traveling and family and all those things. And it's that didn't happen. And plus it was mid-July and 90 degrees outside. But did I buy the sweater? Oh yeah. You better believe I bought that sweater, even though I didn't need it at all. And so I like to share that story because it is true. It's if we can share stories that drive emotional connection between us and our audience, not only will that help them make that purchase decision, but that's when it's going to help them want to support your brand and recommend it.
Yeah. It's the difference between someone being oh, where'd you get that shirt? And you're I don't know. I don't remember. And being oh, I got it from the cutest little Instagram shop. You got to go check it out. Or Etsy shop. I guess it's not really an Instagram shop.
Yes. I love that. Oh, so much.
Yeah. So you want them to be oh, you got to check this out. You got to know. I know one time I was ordering the sticker and I loved the sticker, but I couldn't remember the name of the company, because of that association. But now I remember, of course.
Yeah, exactly. So it's you are the most unique part of your brand, and leaning into you, showing the process behind what you're creating, telling your personal stories, telling what your products mean to you, telling the stories of your customers and how you transform your customers' lives. Those are all such great ways to share on social media without coming out and being hey, buy this thing every post. Yeah.
The other thing that people do that is a pet peeve of mine, and they'll be on social media, which is that buy this post that I keep mentioning, is they put their website link in every single post. I'm well, one, they can't click on that, so they're not going to, and it just looks obnoxious.
Yeah, for sure. So I know I always run into this with product-based businesses, especially. It's how can we cultivate connection? How could we start the conversation? Because my business coach says this all the time too. You're always selling on social media, right? Social media is one of those, the purpose of it is to connect with other humans, human to human connection. You know what I mean? And so you don't always have to be posting shop now, buy from me, website link, whatever it is. like you'll still be making sales with those posts, the posts that are just driving personal connection, that are sharing stories, that are building your know, like, and trust, all those things, like they're still selling for you. It's all working together to sell for you, right? And that's something that I think a lot of people have trouble wrapping their mind around, is remembering it's the big picture. And I think too, it's hard to measure, right? So that's why a lot of us have trouble with it. But I'm always like, it's all working together. Trust the process. You know, people are going to know you, love you, trust you, want to recommend you, all those things.
Yes, I love that. It's more than just that one post that says, buy this now.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, let's talk about, we keep talking about Instagram, I think just because that's where we met. And also that's where I hang out. We both said we're tired of Facebook. Welcome to being like in your 30s where you're just like, I've been on here for 20 years.
Yes.
Wait, no, I'm not that old, but you know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know. I definitely have been sticking in my lane, you know, and it's been healthier for me mindset wise, right? Yeah, for sure. I think it's totally okay to pick and choose the platforms that light you up and that you want to be on, right? And like, you don't have to be on every single platform all the time and stuff, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So my question is, because I know that this is one that people are hearing a lot. Instagram recently said like, oh, we're a video platform. And people are like, I don't know what to do. Do you have thoughts about this? Can you share?
Oh, lady. Well, one of the kind of, I'll be totally honest, one of the cornerstones of my brand is eye rolling at social media, eye rolling
Yes.
at Instagram all the time, right? Like once I started leaning into that part of my personality, right? And not being like, this is the best thing in the world, being like, no, this is freaking annoying. Like, let's just like put it out there, right? So the reason I'm bringing that up is because I have been eye rolling at Instagram a lot lately over the past 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, 6 months. They've been going through so many platform updates. And to me, sometimes it feels like that trying to catch up with things, right? TikTok came out, Instagram created Reels, they're like Clubhouse came out, they're talking about creating like an audio thing, but like, who knows, and all these things. And all that stuff. I tend to blow my roll when it comes to like trends and whatnot. I tend to like take a deep breath and like just like wait and see and like let it happen and whatnot. I will say, and I talk about this when it comes to like talking about the algorithm and everything too, like no matter what, you just want to remember that Instagram's like sole purpose, any social media platform's sole purpose is to keep people on the platform for longer, right? That's the same thing for the algorithm. That's the same thing with any updates they're making. Like that's the point of their business. That's what they're trying to achieve, is to give people the best experience, give people the best content to keep them scrolling for longer, right? And that's why our feeds are so curated. That's like the reasoning behind the platform and the algorithms, what they put where, what posts they boost, and all of those things, right? So like, that's always what I remember is like that core mission is never going to change for Instagram, right? So ultimately, what you need to be focusing on is creating content that is valuable, that your ideal people pay attention to, engage with, show Instagram that it's valuable in some sort of way. And I do think that especially when new features come out, like Reels right now, definitely are getting like way more visibility and all of those things, right? But carousel posts are performing really well too. Like ultimately, I think that we are shifting toward video content, but if that, is going to stop you from showing up, like what I like to say to my like one-on-one coaching clients is, okay, let's take inventory of you, your business, your time, your energy, what's easiest for you to create, how you can show up, what's getting the best response from your audience, what is a plan of attack for Instagram that's the most valuable for you, that like you're putting out content consistently in a way that doesn't make you feel like you're on the hamster wheel, always trying to run to catch up to something, but also is going to get you the best results possible without you sacrificing like your time and energy and whatever. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. For myself, like I've just been like being lazy and I'm like, yeah, let's just animate that post on Canva and then it'll look like a video.
Yeah. And that's what I did the other day too. Yeah, lady. I mean, I've decided that now I'm going to make reels more of a priority in my own content creation because I had like a crazy first 6 months of this year, like launching like 3 different things and doing all this different stuff and all this craziness. And I was like, whatever, like I'm just trying to show up consistently on Instagram. And so I'm not going to make reels my priority. And I've created reels up until now, just when I feel inspired, like dorky or something. Yeah. But I decided it's probably time to like start dabbling in the reels and seeing how we can make this work. And the other day I did a reel that was like no video footage whatsoever. It was just all created, animated in Canva, and it still performed like really well. I think, I'm going to start like testing that out more, but you can always find a way to make the platform work for you. That's one of those things that like I get fired up about is like, I don't want us to feel like we are always trying to like keep up with the new Instagram stuff and like keep up to do this and have to do this and the shoulds and the, all of those things. Like we can figure out how can we make this work for you?
Yeah, I just love that philosophy so much. I love your whole approach to like rolling your eyes at it. I agree. Like I get a lot of questions about how often should I post and I'm like, there's no right answer, and they're like, well, this person says this or Instagram says that. And I'm like, well, do what you want to do what feels good to you. And I think that's hard for a lot of business owners, and it's not their own fault. It's like, they just really want to be successful. So they think they have to follow some kind of formula or plan that someone else created. And that's what's going to make success. And once you start taking control over the fact that you create your own success and like you can determine what that looks like, how many posts, how many videos, all of this, it becomes a lot more fun to do business.
Yeah. And you don't feel like it's sucking your soul. Like that is the worst thing ever, is like being like, I have to do this. And I have all of these hashtags running around in my brain. And like, just feeling like Instagram is taking over my life. I hate that so much. And so usually what I just do is take a deep breath, step back from the situation and just figure out exactly how can I make it work for me, And so my approach to like creating a strategy for social media is like, well, taking inventory, like I said, of who am I? What comes easiest for me? What does my people respond to in the most way? What do I have time for, right? That I can like manage. And then I like to break it down into like different content pillars, and like break it. Like that's how my brain works is like, okay, look at the big picture of every month. Okay, break it down by weeks. This is my weekly theme for this one. I need a client testimonial. I need a story. I need a whatever, and like break it down in that way. And that just makes it like so much easier and less overwhelming.
Yeah. And it sounds more fun. I have a motto, or like one of my affirmations in my business is, when I'm having fun, I make more money.
Yeah. And it's true. It is so true, lady. Because people can feel your energy,
Yeah. Well, speaking of energy, I want to circle back or tie in your quiz because it has like that kind of energy and vibe. And like, it is so cool. So tell us about your quiz.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That was one of the things. That was one of the projects in the first 6 months of this year. And so I created a quiz, my friends. It's called your brand vibe quiz. And I kind of developed this whole brand vibe idea. It's kind of what I'm writing my book about. And I have like the digital bundles now and stuff, because I totally understand how hard it is to bring your brand to Instagram, right? Whether you do branding yourself or you even get professional help. A lot of us are like thinking about branding as, okay, it's my brand colors and my brand, fonts and the logo and whatever. But then how do I take that and bring it to social media that's like such a human focused platform, right? So your brand vibe is really about truly understanding who your brand is, like humanizing your brand, understanding those core foundational elements, like your why, your motivations, your values, your perspective on your industry and the world, what you want to support, what you want to change, right? Because that's just as powerful. And those are those messages that can really drive home your content. Also figuring out how to present it in like a human way that's relatable to your people. And then also those visuals that like we all just like dive into the visual part of our branding. I feel like when we create businesses, like that's what's fun, at least for me, But yeah, so anyway, like that's one of those questions I get a lot because people have trouble understanding like, okay, cool. I have this business, I have this brand, but like, now how do I create content for it? What do I talk about? How do I show up on social media? So I developed this like brand vibe method. And then I kind of wanted to make it easy as possible for those down to earth entrepreneurs wearing all the hats and doing all the things and whatever. And like, because so much of your branding is about you and like who your business is, but it's also about your ideal customer, right? And so that's what people have trouble understanding is like, it's about how you show up for your ideal customer online, right? And so you want to make sure that you create a brand that is attractive to your ideal customer as well. And so long story short, I created this method. I created these like digital bundles to help people show up and bring their brand online. And I also created a quiz. It's called the Brand Vibe Quiz. And it's basically like a personality test for your brand. And it was so much fun to create. And it's really fun too, to hear people's results. Like, you know, I created this quiz out of thin air, out of my mind, just like based on personalities and how I created different bundles and like different color theories and stuff like that. But I'm always like, what was your result? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so each one of your bundles ties into like the personality quiz part, right? So you have these bundles that help people like create visuals and show up. But what I love about your bundles is that it's like not just like templates for Canva. You include prompts and you include like personality about your brand. Can you tell us a little bit about your bundles?
Oh my gosh, yes. I love so they're called brand vibe bundles. I'm like creating this whole like brand vibe focus in my business now. Well, because to me, that's the thing. Your brand vibe isn't just visuals, right? Like that's where a lot of people struggle. And I think that we get all confused, like what looks good? How do I make something look on brand and all of that stuff? But like your vibe, it's like more than that, right? Like that's why I like to say humanizing your brand. It's not just like the visuals, your appearance of your brand, but it's also your messaging and then how you speak to people, your brand voice and all of those things. So when it came to the bundles, basically, it was one of those things that was one of like the main questions I kept getting that also was stopping people from showing up online. Right. Like, I think that that's what kind of like stops people from just starting and just showing up on Instagram more so is because they're like, I don't know how to do this, you know, and it's kind of like deer in headlights moment. And so I was like, how can I make this easier for my people? And so the brand vibe bundles include Canva templates, which I had so much fun creating, you know what I mean? And I'm planning on creating more bundles. It's kind of like a creative part, like experience for me, but it includes like Canva templates and all of these different layouts, like based on the different brand vibe and personality kind of things, but it also includes like prompts to help you tell those stories. It includes, you know, if you just take the quiz, which is like totally free, the results include like your power words, your power emojis, you know, just kind of for fun, but also just like little bits about your brand's personality, what you could start diving into, and also your audience and why they like follow your brand and like your brand, right? There's so many different parts of your brand vibe, but it's more than just the visuals. And so that's what I was really trying to go for when it came to the bundles, is like making it as easy as possible for people to show up. And then also it includes my 30-page, I went kind of crazy, 30-page like content creation guide that like helps people understand how to take better photos and how to edit photos and how to prepare for photo shoots. And also goes into graphics and stuff like that, just like kind of basic elements of visual design and how to create things that feel cohesive. Because that's another issue that comes with social media a lot of times is, you know, you don't only want to post the professional brand photos every day. Like, I think that it drives deeper connection if you can post that cell phone shot that might be a little blurry or something. But it's also a good idea to maybe shift the colors in your cell phone photos to like make them feel a little bit more like your brand colors in a way. And so that's kind of what the bundles help to do too. I include like Lightroom presets in there too. So they're stuffed full. Yeah. And so I love them so much. It was so much fun to create, and I have fun. You know, that's actually one of the things in my business that I really enjoy selling, because people get excited about it, right? So instead of being like, hey, which I have an online course too, which is also wonderful, and I do enjoy selling it, but it's still like, it's more social media marketing and strategy focused. And so when I'm selling to people for the online course, it's more like, okay, you have this problem that's like stressful for you. You know, usually they're stressing out about how to market on social media. Marketing isn't necessarily fun for them and whatnot. But with the brand vibe bundles, it's more like, okay, so like, what's your brand's personality? Let's like figure out which bundle is for you and all of those things. And it's like a different energy.
It really is. Yeah. I can tell that you're having fun based on your email signature because I think you must have different versions of it, or maybe you changed it recently, but I'm like, oh, she changed her email signature and it's so fun. And like the other one, I don't know, the first one I saw was still really fun, but then I'm like, oh, she made a new one, or it changed, or this is really cool. And it's just like a teeny tiny detail that most people probably don't even notice, but I could tell like this girl has fun.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for bringing up my email signature. I don't think I've ever actually chatted with anyone about it, but like, it was one of those things where, yeah, totally. I have like 5 brand colors. It's so funny because when I started my brand, I like went with black and white because I thought my brand needed to be professional, and now I have 5 bright ass colors and it's like, oh man. But yeah, so my signature, I actually have like tons of different versions, just different goofy photos of me in circles. And then I change up my like name and my signature with my different brand colors. And yeah, it's just kind of one of those fun things. Like, I think that exactly what you just said earlier in the conversation, like having fun in your business is part of what makes you magnetic, right, to your ideal customers, and part of what makes people want to buy from you. I think whether you do a service or are product based, right?
Yeah. I'm thinking about like how my social media at this time, it doesn't feel fun to me. Like I had way more fun when I like took my own pictures, even if it was like, I had a different color palette. So it was different, but it's also like serving a different purpose in my business at this time. Right. So we're fully booked. So I don't have to be out there every single day, like trying to get people to attract me, but it's so different when you're selling products. And it's so different when you sell like a $50 item as opposed to a $5,000 item. Right. And so I'm just thinking about like how you can use social media and really make it your own for whatever season you're in your business. And there's nothing wrong with changing that in different seasons. I know one of my friends, clients, she's actually worked on my team before. She was posting like 3 times a day, and then she went on maternity leave, and now she's posting like 3 times a week, like, pre-scheduled posts. And it's just because her life is in a different season, and social media is adaptable, and it can be fun, and it can tell your story, and it can do all these things, but it doesn't have to be this like high pressure thing that we make it out to be, which is like why I love your philosophy and your methods so much.
Yeah. Oh, lady. Totally agree. Like give yourself permission to like make it work for you. Like that's what I always come back to is like, okay, what do I need to do in this time in my business? And it's so funny that you bring that up. Actually, I was talking about this the other day. So through May, I was doing like a brand vibe challenge and then launching my my social vibe course. And I was like showing up in that super high promotional period, just showing up every day, doing Instagram lives almost daily. Like, it was like very, very high touch and high promotional, which I'm working through mindset wise. And it was actually one of the better launches I've had so far mindset wise, but still it was like exhausting, draining. And so I went through May and like was showing up so hardcore. And then through June, I literally like most of my posts through June of 2021 were exactly the same posts from June of 2020. I pretty much repurposed all of my content through June and just created it in that way. And it was definitely like more like hands-off, fun content, cultivating like connection and nurturing versus like, hey, buy from me, because I just went through that period. And yeah, I think it's just like taking a deep breath and figuring out what do I need right now during this season.
Yeah. I love your brand vibe bundles. I was like, I don't know which one to get, but I haven't taken the quiz. So I need to get one. I need to take a quiz. So my question is, at what point do you work with a brand designer and then you would buy a kit? How does that work? Because I know a lot of people work with brand designers to like get that professional logo and colors and fonts and stuff. And how do you tie that into your bundles?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think that I made the bundles so that if you wanted to just take one and run with it, you totally can. But also they're like super easy to customize to your own brand. And they're like very reasonably priced, if I'm like being honest, you know what I mean? So like, it's one of those things, like I give you so many options. I do try to, like, if you have not worked with a branding designer, you could probably take one of my bundles and run with it. But I also like suggest 5 different color palettes within each bundle. I suggest 3 different font pairings. Plus, like, I love it when my brand 5 bundlers reach out to me and like ask me my opinion, because it's fun for me, right? And so, you know, if you haven't gotten any help with a branding designer, I think you could totally take a bundle and like run with it. But also, like, I encourage people to customize them. And the way I try to set up the bundles, when people are trying to choose a bundle, I usually tell them to look mostly at like the layout of the templates and the elements that I chose, because I think that that is the hardest thing to then like go in and customize yourself if you want, right? Like for my Dance with the Stars bundle, it was so funny. That was like one of those names of the bundles that I was like, guys, help me come up with a different name for this. And then I like just did it, you know. That's kind of like a whimsical feminine bundle. There's like really like thin, like line based elements, but also kind of like wavy lines, like more organic feeling of the elements in there. And so you can totally change the colors within that bundle very easily and stuff. But like the elements that I use in the way I lay out the different templates in the bundles, that's what I tell people to look at the most, because I think that that's the hardest then to go in and change.
I was thinking of a couple of different things when I asked that question. One, there are people who aren't ready to invest in like working with a brand designer, but they still want to show up and they need support too. Or 2, there's people who worked with a designer years ago and now they're like stuck. They don't know how to use their stuff anymore. Like they feel like bored with it, and all you need is some new templates. And 3, this is something that I've been talking a lot with my friend who is a brand designer, is that a lot of people, even if they work with a designer, like the designer doesn't tell you everything you need to do. You know, they might give you a couple of templates, but they're not going to last for forever. You know, like you can totally take your elements and plug them into a template. And what you said about like the different elements, the style, that is so key. Like one of my signature design as a web designer is that I hate pill-shaped buttons. Or curved buttons. Like they have to have sharp edges. There's all these different ways that brands come together, you know, that have these different elements that you can use. And that's the key. And you can change colors of things easy. But I love how detailed and like the brand bundles or the brand 5 bundles are very reasonably priced. And it is meaty. Like there is a list of things you get with this thing. So go check out her bundles. You can find Kinsey at feelgoodsocial.com.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. And then the quiz is feelgoodsocial.com/quiz. Of course, we'll have those links in the show notes. And then I did want to ask you one more thing before we jump off. And that is, if someone is like feeling totally overwhelmed with social media, or they don't know where to go, or they're just like, they're not posting, they're not showing up, they feel like they're not getting any results even when they do show up. Like, do you have some kind of actionable tip someone could take to like get them moving in the right direction?
Oh yeah, lady. This is one of those really hard things, right? Is to just get started. And I understand how nerve-wracking it is to put yourself out there online. Like it feels scary and it gives you anxiety, especially when you're just getting started. I personally have experienced that it does get easier with practice, right? I was laughing because I was looking at an IG live I did like from a year ago, and I was using the like puppy dog filter. Like I would always go to the puppy dog filter because I was like, this is the one that makes me look cute and allows me to show up online. Right. And like now I like have shown up without makeup on and I'm like, dang, that's some growth. You know what I mean? But it has gotten easier. Right. So I think that taking the pressure off of yourself, firstly, to like show up perfectly all the time, and also giving yourself permission to show up and to like start practicing with baby steps. If you need to use a freaking filter, use a freaking filter to do the face to camera videos on Instagram. No judgment over here. You know, all the love over here when it comes to that sort of stuff. And then also I like to question, why am I scared to show up right now? So I think that a lot of people feel like they'll be in the spotlight. A lot of people feel like they need to show up perfectly all the time, or like professionally, or like they're afraid of looking stupid or saying something, like, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of that perfectionism thing. And so usually when it comes to that sort of stuff, there's two different types of things I like to say. Is one, if you feel like you're in the spotlight, this works for some people really well and it depresses some people. So if this doesn't work for you, don't worry. But like, honestly, if you're feeling like you're posting and you're in the spotlight and all of a sudden everyone in the whole freaking world is going to see what you're putting out there on Instagram, that's not going to happen. I like to give people a little reality check and be like, remember, especially when you're just starting out and you're showing up online, not a lot of people are actually going to see that post. You know what I mean? And so if you want to give yourself that permission of like, you're not really in the spotlight. We're all the stars of our own lives. So even if someone does see your post and like likes your post and whatnot, they probably didn't even really pay attention to it that hardcore anyway, because they're in their own life thinking about themselves, you know? And then also if you are a perfectionist and you're afraid to like show up online because you want everything to be perfect, once again, people probably aren't going to see every single one of your posts all the time. People really aren't being as judgmental as you think they are, because once again, they're all the stars of their own lives. And also, I mean, there's something to be said about authenticity and showing your humanness. Being more human allows you to drive that deeper connection with people. And while it feels scary and like social media feels so shiny, and so we all feel like we need to show up as shiny people, I don't connect to those like shiny celebrities. You know, like the celebrities that we do connect to are the ones that like say something hilarious or do something like dorky, you know what I mean? And so it's really okay. One of the best things I've done is like just releasing the pressure that I'm putting on myself to be perfect and just relaxing into it and like reminding myself, oh shoot, you know, I stumbled over that thing. I did an Instagram live yesterday with these girls from this community and there were like 200 people watching. There were like 4 people on the thing. And I kept calling the girl the wrong name. And I actually shared the Spotify story because I was like, I'm so sorry. But you know, I kept calling this like awesome, amazing woman the wrong name for like 5 minutes. And it was like embarrassing, but also like I called it out. I apologized to her and I was just like, girl, I'm sorry. This happens all the time, you know? And she was like, it's cool, you know? And I think that actually helped to drive deeper connection with her versus like, that's something to like be remembered and for us to like connect over, I think.
Yeah. I'm thinking back to, it must have been like a year ago or 2 years ago. And I said, I'm never going to use a filter again because I'm going to show up as I am, which I would love to do. But then I realized that I wasn't showing up at all because I was like, I don't wear makeup. I have frizzy hair because I have curly hair, you know? And so then I was just like, why? So I started using filters again and now I show up again, you know? So it doesn't have to be nerve wracking as we think it is. I also say like, people are too busy judging themselves to judge you.
Oh, I love that. That's really true. You know what I mean? Oh my gosh. It's so good. I feel like I'm going to like start using that phrase in my and it's so true, right? There's no shame. I don't care. Like whatever's going to get you to show up. You know what I mean? And that's what I kind of realized too. I was like, yeah, I use filters. And once I like owned it, it's like, cool, you know, whatever.
Yeah. Find your signature filter.
Yeah, exactly.
This has been so much fun. I just adore your personality and your method and like just making social media approachable because it is something we build up. Like it has to be so perfect, but it can be a wonderful opportunity. Another thing I love to remind people is like never before in business have people had the opportunity to directly talk to their customers as easily. Before you had to like go into their business to talk to them. And now you can like just talk to them about their coffee order. So this is a really wonderful opportunity and you can make it whatever you want.
Yeah. I love that so much.
Thank you so much for being on the show, Kinsey. I'm so grateful that we got to swap podcasts, that we got to talk. I was telling you, I think on your show, the first time I like was introduced to you was because of your Get Shit Done sweatshirt, which I have. Yeah. And I just adore it. And after I found that, I was like hooked on your philosophies and your Instagram. So I'm so glad we got to connect over Zoom and thank you for being here.
Oh my gosh, lady. I am so glad that we've gotten connected. And yeah, for sure. You guys like go check out Erin's interview on my podcast. They're coming out the same week. And like you dropped so many just like amazing knowledge nuggets. I'm so excited to share this with my audience. They're like going to go bananas over it. Thank you so much for bringing me on your show, lady. I've loved connecting with you too.
We will have links to all of Kinsey's stuff, her podcast, her Instagram, her quiz, her bundles in the show notes. You can find her at Feel Good Social on Instagram.
Well, there you have it, my friend. I hope that you enjoyed me just dishing up all the good stuff about social media and how to make it more approachable for your business. Don't forget to connect with Erin and go listen to her show as well, Product Powerhouse. It is so good. It's one of those regulars that I tune into often as well. So I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I will catch you next time I catch you. Thanks so much for listening, my friend. For show notes and a whole lot of other awesome freebies, visit feelgoodsocial.com. Simply go to feelgoodsocial.com for all the goods.